Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. We're going to do a shop tour. Haven't done one since 2022. We've made a lot of changes. We're going to start outside and we'll end up inside. So sit back, relax, come with me. So you can see on top of the door, we're at 275. It's on River Valley Drive in a place called Grand Bay in the province of New Brunswick in eastern Canada. You can look us up, obviously. We're about an hour from the border with Maine, and we're about 5 or 6 kilometers as the crow flies from the shore of the Bay of Fundy, which has the highest tides in the world. Anyway, I bought this little strip mall from my father in 2019. We recently completed our showroom after years of not having one, and the final bit was to do the window treatments so people would know where we were. Don't get a lot of walk-in traffic here, but in the summertime when people are traveling, they do. So we thought, you know what, we need to up our game. So this is our showroom. We moved in here 2018. We were going to do a showroom then, but then in early part of 2020, when the lockdowns happened, our business exploded and we went from 5 employees to 25 employees. So we needed a break room. And that's kind of settled down. So we thought, let's do a showroom. So this represents the tools that we make here. Some of them we import, others we modify, and then some we start from scratch, including all of our shooting boards. And then over here are the various accessories. We've developed a full line of cases to protect your tools against rust. Anybody that lives anywhere near the coast understands that. So we've got a chisel roll. It all has VCI technology, which is vapor corrosion inhibitor. It's a material inside that miraculously keeps rust off. Anyway, then our benches, we have both the MDF top, which is water resistant, and the Baltic birch top. We move a lot of benches. Our Moxon vices have become real popular, especially with our new addition for holding the board when you're dovetailing. So this is our showroom. I'll take you to the back. This is our shipping room. This is where, this actually 4 years ago, this was a coin-operated laundromat. Shipping room, the entire shipping operation was from here to the wall, and then it exploded. So this is where Gina and Pam fill orders. So we keep enough in here to keep the shelves full for a few days, and we have lots of storage on the other side. The only thing interesting here is people always wonder what this is. Well, this is where the packing beans reside, so they fill your box so your tools don't get broken. They're always adding new tools, so this is somewhat always in flux. And then out here, this was originally was our first workshop. We only managed to teach here 1 year, and then business took off, and it ended up becoming where we store all of our surplus inventory. We had a little kitchen for the staff. How long ago? 6 months?
Here.
Oh, a year ago we bought a laser engraver so that we could improve the look of our products. So everything gets laser engraved, which makes for a nice, neat branding. If you're new to our channel, then you wouldn't have known. This was a bowling alley. And that is 1, 2, 3. This is lane number 4. We decided to keep the floor. It's nice and level. We just filled in the gutters and it works lovely. We raised the ceiling. Well, I didn't raise, there was a low ceiling. We took that out. So we had the capacity to put dust collectors and hang our power and our air lines from the ceiling. But this is where all the folks work that build our tools. Brandon works right here. Brandon does all of our shooting boards. He also does a lot of the packaging. If you move around this way, you'll see all of our equipment is old general equipment. The company started, I think, in 1946 in Drummondville, Quebec. They lasted until, I think, 2015. So this is the General 100, which is a combination 16-inch disc sander and a 6-inch belt sander. Great machines, they last forever. Drill presses. This is just our cabinet area. Actually, we did that as part of our online workshop. Wanted to show people how to do uppers and lowers. We have 2 edge sanders. This one is set up permanently to do the ends of our benches. So we've got a nice, good, solid square setup. So Kevin, who does our benches, can come in here and perfectly square up the ends. We use saw stop for table saws. Can't beat it. Not only the safety factor, but they're such an accurate, good saw. So we have two. This one is set up to rip. That one is set up for cross-cutting. The dust collection, we have a big Oneida. I'll show you that when we get around the other side. So all the heavy machines are set up so as soon as you turn them on, it automatically turns on the dust collector and opens up the blast gate, which is really nice. Keeps the floor nice and clean, and that's nice and safe as well. More drill presses. There's an exception to the rule. There's an old Delta. This is a 16-inch, buried underneath all these tools is a 16-inch general jointer that just needs to be tuned up. Other than that, it's all ready to go. We haven't had a lot of use for it. Here's a few more of these lathes. So Harold works here. Harold turns our mallets. He also does our marking gauges. Rick works here. Rick does all of our chisel handles. Kevin does our kerf extend handles there. Rick also does all the tuning up on all the planes. And this is great. I didn't think we were going to use this as much as we do. So this is a vacuum press. Chris, we call him our resident engineer, works for a company called RPC. And what we wanted a way of making our bench tops as flat as possible. So the money that we spent on this was so that this base would be as flat as possible. So when we do our bench tops, they're either made up of 3 layers of water-resistant MDF or 3 layers of 1-inch Baltic birch. So the top goes down. When you bring this cover down, lock it in place, turn on the vacuum pump, atmospheric pressure works its magic, everything is pulled down to that super flat top. So this is where Kevin works. So he does all of our benches. So when we ship a bench, it's in a box that is 25 inches by 67. And the box itself is only about 7.5 inches thick. So everything is in there and it's a quick, easy assembly. But we try to make it so that when the customer gets it, it's only minutes away from being ready. One of the biggest problems to deal with is raw materials. And sheet goods is a real problem because they're just heavy and awkward to manage. So we have this standing one. So all of our sheets that we use on a regular basis, Baltic birch, MDF, regular plywood, more over there, stand up in here. And we used this stuff is called puck board. So it's the stuff that lines the boards in a hockey rink. So it's nice and slippery. So it makes it really easy to move your sheet goods in and out, so it doesn't take 3 people. Now, if we go up this side, this is our what do we call this? I'm lost in words. This is our finishing room, and when we made it, we were a much smaller operation. So we're in the process of moving that auxiliary heater so we can expand that, and especially when you're spraying benches, you need lots of room to be able to get around it, and it's cramped right now. An old general bandsaw. I try to make it so that we have a machine for every operation. Then you're not switching it back and forth where air creeps in, and also that's when parts start to get worn and things get worn out when you're moving it back and forth. So we do all of our things on this. We keep a metal cutting blade, and this is where we make our angle trainers made out of a really abrasive material. Another edge sander. This is one that Ian uses. He does all of our saws. Another bandsaw, again, all set up for very specific uses. Lots of drill presses. I think that's the only non-North American piece of equipment we have. There's 2 of them, 2 jets. And each one of these does a specific function. This is an interesting piece of equipment. This is a Wadkin 30-inch disc sander, combination disc sander, bobbin sander they called it, or we would call it a spindle sander. So you put your sleeve on there and that moves up and down. What's really nice about it is that you can move the whole motor up and down so that instead of only using a little bit of your disc or your sleeve and flipping it over and using a little bit over here, you can actually move this up and down so that you can use the entire And they're expensive, so it's nice to be able to utilize all of them. But this big 30-inch disc is great. We use it for flattening the soles of our planes and squaring up the sides. Rick does all of that, and he does a great job, so we can get them so they're well within tolerance. So our saw production is a big part. I should show you this. This is Angie. Angie is Ken, who manages the shop. She is Ken's cousin. She has an illness that keeps her confined to her bed, but she's an honorary employee, so that was the day that I went out and met her for the first time. This is where Ian works. He does all of our saws. Really neat. Everything's always cleaned up at the end of the day. So these are saw blades. Don't want to touch the brass because it'll leave fingerprints. But these are saw blades that have already been mounted in the brass. The engraving is all done. The copper pins are in, and that's ready to be mounted to a handle. All the buffers, of course, everything is hooked up to the dust collector, so you don't have that blowing back in your face. Another disc sander. The nice thing about having a dual disc is that you can put one grid on one side and one grid on the other, and then you're not having to switch them back and forth. This is the one that Ian uses exclusively for doing the rough sanding on the handles for the saws. It's a big 20-inch general bandsaw, great machine. They used off-the-shelf parts when it came to bearings and belts and motors, so if anything wears out like that, it's easy to replace. Now I do have a Makita chop saw. Really like this. This is the one that has the, you don't have to have a whole lot of material. You don't have a whole lot of saw behind it there, and it works nicely. It's nice and smooth. And that's another one that, I don't know if you noticed this, but this is made by Rousseau, and it's a hood that goes all the way around it. Dust collector's in the bottom. So when you're using it, you don't have dust spraying all over the place. It's nice to keep the shop clean. Another bandsaw. This is our wood that we use, the solid wood that we use a lot of. So we use heavy poplar for our moccasin vices. A lot of this is torrefied. We use torrefied wood for winding sticks. We also use it for a lot of other things. Torrefied wood doesn't move with humidity changes. 6/4 cherry. This is what we make all of our chisel handles out of, and our kerf extend handles. And then there's some maple up there as well, 8/4 maple, and we use that for the vice jaws on our benches. This is we recently switched over to a new packaging system, so when we ship our saws out, we know they'll get there in one piece. So it's really nice because I don't know if you can tell, but it has the profile of the saw, so nothing moves inside the box. Very well protected. If we cut them up through the middle, we have two thickness planers, both generals. This one is 14-inch. This is a 20-inch. This does all the heavy work. The guys wanted a smaller one for doing smaller stuff. Big, is that a 7.5 or 10? 7.5 horsepower motor on there. We don't have three-phase power here, so everything is single phase. So when you're running a beast like that, it dims the lights. This is a Poitra 8-inch jointer. This company was absorbed by General back, maybe 30, 40 years ago. So they had a lot of their designs they just got rid of, and others they added to their line. Ken Anthony works right here. Ken manages the whole shop. Oh yeah, I want to show you here. This is a bit of a dungeon. This was the alleyway that they would use when they had the bowling alley here to go back and forth to maintain the pin setting machines. So this is our big Oneida. So this is the largest single phase dust collector that you can get, but it works extremely well. We added a piece on to the big barrel so that you could hold a little bit more. And the one thing I would like to do is I'd like to get that splitter that allows you to have 2 of these air filters, because they've got to be cleaned on a regular basis to make it efficient. We also cut up all the brass for our saws out here, and used to do all of our handles out there as well. We go down through the middle. As I mentioned, Ken, this is where Rick works. We do a lot of metal work. Of course, if you're going to make woodworking tools, you're going to have a lot of metal work. So we have lots of grinders, whether it's used for shaping, things like our half-blind dovetail chisels, or whether it's used for sharpening. We do sharpen all our marking gauge blades so that when they come sharp. And I couldn't resist this. It got such a deal on it. This is General International, which wouldn't be my favorite brand, but it's a thickness sander. So it comes in handy if you're having to thickness sand something that's relatively large. And because it's open on this side, you can do part of it over there, flip it around, and do the other half over here, which I wouldn't say that works the absolute best, but in a pinch. All right, we're going to leave this building, go into the next building, which is where my shop is. So we saved the best for last. We actually swept the floor, but other than that, this is a working shop. We try to keep it from being dangerously untidy, and we do sweep the floor occasionally. So, just if you come in here, that door that Jake just came through with the camera leads to the main shop. I'll close it, keep our cool air in. That door goes to the immediate outside, which is where that container is that we showed you earlier. And then that door goes into the classroom. So what did we disarm this? Approximately 24 by 30. Nice high ceilings. Our dust collector, I showed you the dust collector is actually in the other building. So the pipe comes in through here and then branches out to the main machines. We have automatic gate openers on the thickness planer, on the table saw, and on the jointer. And then manual ones on the floor sweep, the combination disc and belt sander, and down there on the bandsaw. We do all of our filming in here for our YouTube videos and our online workshop. I'll save this part for last. We've kind of come around here. I don't think a lot of this has changed. If you're seeing it for the first time, I'll treat it as such. The clamps on the wall, honestly, I think it's just shop decoration. Rarely do I ever use them. My preference are these clamps made by Bessie. This is their, what do they call this? Tradesman series. It's a light duty clamp. And I think you should strive towards using less pressure, meaning your joint fits better. Now all you have to do is just bring the two pieces together and hold them there. So when I used to actually bend pipe clamps trying to pull things together, I got a little smarter. Over in this corner, I have a rolling cabinet. That's where all my hand power tools are and all the junk. You can't have a flat spot without accumulating crap. I don't know how to get around that. This cabinet, this is probably the most expensive mobile cart I have in here. And it mirrors both sides. So all the clamps are laid out on this side, same thing on the opposite side, which I got tired of dragging a whole bunch of clamps over to another spot in the shop when we were gluing something up. This piece we're kicking on the floor. This is my router, small portable quickie router table that has an 1/8" bit in it. We just leave it. I use it enough that I don't ever bother changing it. Nice to have a big dustbin that's mobile. You can take it right out to the dumpster. This we built as part of Project the Online Workshop. It's nice. It's got lots of cabinets, lots of drawer space, and the drawers are really deep, so you can get all kinds of stuff in there that you wouldn't normally, like table saw blades. The cart underneath is on wheels. Of course, it's dovetailed. And this is where our bin that gets filled up with offcuts. Cut off. This is my thickness planer. And this is a joint, this is a General 14-inch. You can tell by the label. So General started way back in 1946. And this label, I think, was 1963 or 64 is when they changed and went to a different label. So anything that has that label, you know it's at least 60 years old, 50 to 60 years old. No, I had one that was 3-phase. I forgot. This is a single phase. And I put a piece of waxed 1-inch MDF in there, and it really cuts down on the snipe. And no matter what you do, you have a hard time getting rid of that. This is a stack of my expensive lumber. I keep it separated from everything else. My friend Mel at Exotic Woods, if you want to check out a place that has fantastic wood. This, I used to spend a lot of time here. I used to do all of the handles for chisels. Now I only do the specialty ones. There's some pink ivory. These ones are all maple burl. You know, it's gorgeous wood. I use a General 260, and this is the 260 model what? 260. Model 20. So this one has the riser built into it. So a normal 260 had the tailstock was about that high, and this gives you the extra 3 or 4 inches. Nice machine, variable speed, really nice. You can just go from barely moving to full speed just by the turn of the dial. It's also reversible. Great machine. Stable, heavy, wonderful. This is my little portable dust collector. It's just a fan with a furnace cartridge in it. It's just enough to pull the dust away when you're turning so it's not back in your face. I can't stand wearing masks. I had this hooked up so we could run it right off the dust collector, but that's so noisy. I have that on, I can't even tell. This back wall is where I store projects that are never going to get finished, but I don't want to throw them away. This is my exotic wood corner. This is where I get, a lot of this came from my friend Ahmed down in Southern California, and he sends me some of the most gorgeous exotic woods. So in behind here are all of my shorts. Each section is a different species. Cedar on the top, walnut, cherry, bird's eye, and various maples, pine, and then a little bit longer pieces. What it means is I hardly ever throw any piece of wood out. I just put it in there. And as long as it's somewhere where you can access it, you'll actually use it instead of going lopping off another piece of wood just to get that small piece that you just didn't have any in your bin. So I don't throw anything out anymore. I save it. I may eventually have to, but until then. I left a blank spot back here where I store my Excalibur jigsaw. Don't use it very often, but I got it inexpensively enough that it's worth keeping. It's my big 20-inch bandsaw. I have the same one in the other shop. Great machine. Very, very simple construction. Big, heavy cast iron wheels. The only thing I don't like about it is you adjust your, what do we call it? The tracking right here. So you loosen this knob and you turn that one while that thing is turning. A little intimidating. Imagine reaching in and having to operate that with that thing. Keeps you awake. Does have a brake, which is really nice. And it's got a good fence. This is an old, when I say old, probably 1970s, foot-operated, powerful mortising, hollow chisel mortiser. So instead of having to use your arm to pull down the lever like you would on the smaller models, this one is operated by a foot pedal, so you can get lots of torque. You also have the option to do it in hand. And the table moves, which is really nice. And it's locked. You can lock it in place and you can move it in and out. It's got all those features that on the smaller models, you've got to go in there and try to adjust it yourself. I think it's a 1-horse, single phase, really heavy base. Bit of a pain to move around, but nice and stable in use. This is my another General 100, which is a 16-inch disc, and then I think it's a 6x48 vertical belt sander. It's not necessarily vertical because you can lay it down flat as well, but I find it more useful up like that. In the center of the room is my saw stop. This is the industrial model. Great machine, fantastic. If you can't afford one, save your money. You can't afford not to have one. This is a Moxenweiss, and can't remember who it was that gave us this idea, but I thought it was such a neat idea. I actually put it on here and left it here, although we never use it. It's nice and it's always available. I skipped over the jointer. So my jointer is a General. This is probably early 2000s. You can see again the logo changed. I try to constantly do things that make the process of working in here smoother and more efficient. And I can't tell you how much time I would run around the shop looking for glasses, looking for a dust collector, a dust mask when I need it, or a respirator, or my goggles. I feel embarrassed when I think of how many times I would search for those. So we built this cabinet, and it has all of that stuff right there, so I can always go to it as long as I remember to put it there, but I'm getting pretty good at that. This is my workbench that I built way back in 2012. 12 or 13. It needs to be resurfaced. It's faded. It's amazing how it fades even though we're in a room that doesn't have any UV light. But it's mahogany and bird's eye. And then we are in the process of completing this. This has been a 10-year project. But the idea was we wanted it to match, but we also wanted it to be really, I'm not sure what the word is. Intuitive, yeah. I want stuff to be in the most convenient spot possible. So when we built this originally, everything was built with just plywood and pine, and we built it with the intent that every once in a while we would change it, and when we eventually settled on something we liked, then we would build it in the real materials. So the first, and it's 6 sections. Over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So over here is where all of my shooting boards, bench hooks, anything like that. This is a flat miter mitering shooting board. This is a little mini one that you use with a block plane. This is my main one. And I have strips down here of plexiglass so it just wouldn't scratch that up all the time. Everything is trimmed out with some really pretty bird's eye. We'll just go along here real quick. This is all my drilling supplies. You can see how many years difference between this bank of drawers and when this bank got done. Same wood, but look at the difference in color. And these are all just boxes and holes, but all of the drawers, I think I have one that I had recently. All the drawers are fitted with, oh yeah, we recently went in and put drawer stops. All the drawers are fitted with what we call drawer slips, so it doubles your running surface on the bottom. These get used a lot. You don't want to wear spots out. So drawer slip allows you to increase the wear surface without increasing the width of the drawer side and making it really heavy. This side has most of the out tools. It's missing, but my panel gauge is supposed to be there. Probably let in the other room from the class last week. My winding sticks, level. And then these drawers, this one just has a catch-all. You need one of those. And then this one is another time saver. Again, how many times would I run around looking for those needle nose pliers with the bend in them? So everything has a cutout, everyone has a spot. I'm missing something. It looks like an adjustable wrench, wherever that went. Hopefully I'll find it. So I can come here knowing that's exactly where I'm going to find whatever it is I'm looking for. This section was the next one to be done. Didn't want to waste any space, so in behind, and you really, I wanted my planes to be nicely presented so that they were easy to access. You come in, you pick it up, and you go to the bench. A lot of wasted space in behind. So we put little shelves in behind all of these that were big enough. There isn't one behind here. And then there's my grip, which goes on the side of your plane for when you're using the shooting board. Keep it right there with the tool. Underneath are a whole bunch of drawers. We're just working on the last 2. And these are all made out of sapele. I have all the dovetails come through in the front intentionally. Alan Peters used to do that on select piece of furniture, and I thought on a tool cabinet would look really good. Hopefully I'm going to get fishing tonight. And then I'm trying to get to a point where I have these laid out so I'll know where everything is. So when I come and grab it, I don't have to go through 15 drawers looking for it. Anyway, fair bit of work for the number of drawers it is, dovetails front and back, but love doing it. This will be the next section. Is this the next section? Yeah, this is next section to be worked on. So this one we've pretty much settled. There's going to be a few minor changes in here. Underneath here, I keep all of my less used carving tools and some chisels. All of my saws sit in tills so that you don't tie up all this space above them. If they had to come straight up, you couldn't have anything in here. But since they all tilt out, you can easily access them, put them back when you're done. And this is all obvious. I did the same thing over here with more or less just to balance it. That wasn't really necessary, but I did it anyway. And the drawers have whatever the drawers have in them. I'd like to get that better organized. The last section will be over here. This is kind of an open space where tools that you frequently grab for. And then these pullouts, I think, just make it, again, a little more user-friendly because it's by category. There's all my rasps, there's all my files, and there's all my screwdrivers. And in here are all various size screws, from small to big, top to bottom, and small to larger diameter, left to right. This is our classroom. So currently this only gets used 7 weeks out of the entire year. It becomes my grandchildren's romper room in between. We just finished our 31st class with Purple Heart Project. So come in, we'll have a look. This is the Joe Power Memorial Workshop. Joe Power was my neighbor growing up. He was a World War II vet, severely injured. I grew up with his boys. Eventually, each one of these panels is going to be an artist's depiction of some aspect of his service in World War II. That's young Joe Power, age 16, volunteered for the Royal Canadian Artillery, and that's old Joe Power over there shortly before he died. In the meantime, we're waiting for his military records so we can make those pictures accurate. Kevin, by the way, does all our artwork. In between time, each of the apron on the wall represents 2 classes. And these are the military patches of the guys that were in the class. They sign the back side. They give me the patch that they most identify with. So when we're set up, if you look around this way, we'll have anywhere from 14 to 16 benches. They're all pushed off to the side. I'm actually in the process of going through some veneer right now for a project we're about to start. But we keep our lots of inventory of lumber. Each flag, the flags represent each country that we've had combat wounded vets come from. So rather than take these guys into a restaurant 3 times a day to get their meals, we do it all right here. So this is our MASH mess hall. Kevin, same Kevin, did all the artwork for us. Always been a fan of MASH. There's the opening scene. Radar, Klinger in the bathroom. Colonel Potter with his horse. That's actually not his horse. That's my daughters. 2 of my daughters, Kenzie and Loren, ride competitively, and their first horse died, so that's in memory of Piper. And then over in the corner, Frank and Margaret peeking in. Hawkeye and BJ. Igor the cook that couldn't cook. And Colonel Flagg with Charles Emerson Winchester III. Ceilings painted. We got Tony, combat wounded vet that worked here, got me some canvas, so we made it look like this is, you were looking out onto the compound. And Kevin did such a great job on the tent, you can't see it very well because of the cooler, that I had him paint the whole inside to look like a tent. Somebody sent me a Bell helicopter, the original MASH helicopter. That's floating in midair. So a lot of magic happens here. Yeah, we have a little commercial kitchen where Anita and my wife Kim and my daughter-in-law Megan and my daughter Erica all contribute to the meals that are absolutely fantastic. So this is RC Woodworking 2024. Another couple years, we'll give you another update as things continue to change. See you, come visit us. If you enjoy my method of work and like my style of teaching, click on any one of these videos to help take your woodworking to the next level. I've always said better tools make the job so much easier. If you click on the plane and chisel icon below, it'll take you to our site and introduce you to all the tools that we actually manufacture right here in our shop. It'll also give you information on our in-person and online workshops.